back to another episode of
She Means Well.
Hi.
Happy to be here. Hi.
Dude, hi. It's such a beautiful day.
I know, you guys. It is so sunny. It's actually a little warm too.
I actually got to thinking about it as I was saying that last episode. I'm like, I feel like we always are like talking about the weather and it's like, it's a beautiful day.
You guys, here in Washington, it really matters. Like, it has me down.
You have to appreciate
Yeah.
it when we got it.
You do. This morning when I woke up, it was like 7 and it was super foggy out.
Oh, really?
Like spooky.
Spooky yuki.
Yeah. Which kind of falls in with today's episode.
Oh.
But before we get to the bread and butter, if you will, there's a couple little updates for you guys.
First off,
Yeah.
being who knew it was so hard to update your phone?
It never has been though. That's the thing.
Abigail, she and I, we have had quite the 48 hours. You've been on the ride longer than I.
Yeah, we're nearing 72.
And I'm taking the baton on to the next day.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So Bailey and I both got new phones. I got a new laptop too. And so we've been in this whole iCloud backup transfer. I sound so old saying this. It's never been an issue for me, like transferring, getting a new phone. Like, sure, give me
iCloud makes it
30 minutes and
Apple
it's done.
makes it so easy.
So easy. Always has been easy. Love that until this time. We both got the 15 Pro phones, whatever. And both have had such bad issues. This is the third 15 Pro that I've had to get. And hopefully this one is fine. And I got the first one a little over a month ago. And I've had to get 3 different ones.
Well,
This is the third one.
The first time it was like the phone had an issue, like the battery, right? Like the transfer was fine.
The battery, so the initial one that I bought, the battery just would die super quick. Like I would charge it overnight, and by the time I got on lunch, like at work, which I'm not on my phone at work, I can't be, there's no way. At lunchtime, it was like 20%. I'm like, how?
And when I got this phone, the girl on the phone said that she charges her phone like every 2 days. So like that's obviously
Yeah.
not okay.
And that's typically how it goes. I feel like, after you've had an iPhone for so long, the battery does tend to like to tank.
How they get you.
But my 14 battery was way better than that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, had to return that. The phone that they sent me was still linked to somebody else's account. So it was like trying to have me verify my identity with somebody else's phone number. I'm like, that's not me. And then I called and they're like, oh, this has never happened in my 6 years of working here, which they set me up good. They're going to like pay my next phone bill, which is really nice. So they sent me another phone. And then this one, it took almost the entire day to get it to update, to get it to transfer.
Which is so
it's
annoying
still transferring right now.
That like, and this is the same story for me where you like open it, you're connecting the 2 phones, and then on the new phone, it's saying there's a software update and it doesn't give you an option not do it right then and
Which
do
is
it later.
annoying. It's like, this is a new phone. It should be updated.
Ready to roll.
Yeah.
And it's just like waiting for update. And it was like that all night. And then this morning I tried and then it's like 2 minutes and it was like 2 hours and it's still saying 2 minutes.
Right. But it also then kind of like I need to be more patient, like serious, like a day without a phone. And I'm like,
well, and then
just so
now
annoying.
my old phone has all my like apps and everything. And then this phone finally did transfer, like let me into the phone, but nothing transferred. So it literally just looks like a brand new phone. But I'm running with that today because I have a lot to get done. And I'm like, I'm okay with not having social media. And well, my other thing has like my music and podcast. But so yeah, I have 2 phones.
Bailey was like in her room on her little notebook, like writing down like her clients' needs and things, people that she had to text.
Yes, I had people
looking like Blue's Clues.
Literally, I had people I had to text back, and I'm like, wait, am I gonna lose it? And I thought, but it's still on my other phone. But anyway, it's just been a fiasco.
It has been a fiasco, but it's on the ups.
Yeah, whatever. First world problems. We sound so annoying.
I know. Serious. Sorry, you guys, to drown you out with our complaining beginning of this episode.
But like, if it were you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, serious.
Okay, something that I've been wanting to ask you on the mic, dude.
Dude, what?
You got a call from somebody that pertained to something you submitted quite a while ago. Are you allowed to share about that?
Okay, I'll share a little bit. There's like some rules that I like when I submitted this video, this application, if you will,
Audition?
audition, if you will, you like sign something saying that you can't talk about it until like after the show.
Okay.
But anyway, I had this wild hair and I look back. So this was back in, I think, November. Gosh, she had a lot of courage, but I sent in a video audition to be on this reality TV show that I am obsessed with, have watched it forever. Um, I sent it in not thinking I'd hear anything and I didn't until what was this
Until
like
she did.
4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Yeah, I got a call back from their like director. And he just asked me a bunch of questions and apparently I'm setting up a Zoom call. I haven't heard back from them since then, but
Mhm.
apparently I'm like gonna have a Zoom interview with them to
Mm.
see if they want to have me on the show.
I can't wait till you tell me what show it is.
Oh, God. Come on. Bailey knows what show it is. And
Yeah.
if I get on, I don't even know if I can say. But
Well,
you guys will definitely know if I'm on.
yeah, you'll definitely
Because
know.
I won't be sitting here. I do.
I'm in here, and then I move
I
over to your
know.
mic.
I'm I
Oh my
don't know.
gosh.
I'm like definitely like praying about it, even though I don't even know if I'm gonna get on. But if like the opportunity does arise, if I go on the show,
Yeah.
I really need to pray about it because I know I've just heard like horror stories of like people that have been on reality TV shows that you sign your life away and it's not what it looks like.
Or even like I was talking with my client the other day about Love is Blind, and we were talking about like whatever, just getting a bad edit.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Yeah.
then people later speaking out and being like, that's not how I was. Like the guy that like gave serial killer vibes that was like not talking to any of the guys in the house, but he was
Uh-huh.
like with AD, whatever his name
Mm-hmm.
was, Matt.
Oh,
What was his name?
I don't remember.
But anyway, he was like, they gave me a bad edit, which he seems like a sociopath, but
Right. Um, yeah, I just watched an interview with Chelsea and Kristen Bristow. Uh,
Caitlin.
Caitlin, yeah.
Let's see.
And Chelsea, Jimmy.
Oh.
And
wanna
she
watch
said
that.
that they gave Jimmy a really good edit. Yeah. And
He was
they were
the worst.
and they
And
were
if that was a good edit,
well, I feel like I mean, he was the worst, but I feel like like what she just spilled some tea of like what
like in the
actually,
pods.
yeah, what actually like things that he would like talk about outside of the pods, really, like
Oh.
after the
Oh.
pods.
Because he had me hooked in the pods. I liked him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He got
Okay.
he got
Yeah.
such a good edit in the pods and after the pods, like when they would have these arguments,
Yeah.
it's like they put him in a better light, I guess, to what actually happened. Not that I think he was in a good light in those arguments, but whatever. Yeah, so that's scary too. And I was talking with my sister about it and she was just like, I want you to go on so bad, but they can literally twist like what you say so easily and so quickly and the world will just be coming for you, which that is so scary. I don't want that. Just know that I always mean well. Be well.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh.
so that's
how cool
exciting.
would-
Yeah, Bailey and I have talked about like if I actually do get on this show, what that would look like for She Means Well. We're getting too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
It's
know
just
if I
fun to
got it.
daydream, okay?
It is, yeah.
I love to daydream.
So we'll keep you updated.
Okay, so is there anything else you want to talk about
Um,
before we dive in?
not really.
'Cause
Yeah.
we did talk about on the last episode what this episode will be about.
Yes. Oh wait, no. I
Oh.
do have one thing I want to talk. Yeah, I want you to do that again. So I do want to share. So I got my first
Oh.
film camera. It's a
Oh, right,
manual
right.
film camera. Bailey has definitely inspired me to start taking film. So I found this camera on Facebook Marketplace. It's so cool. I should have brought it on to show you guys, but it's so cool. I've only taken one photo with it. So I went and met this guy. I had my friend with me, so I wasn't by myself. And we met in Tacoma at the like photo shop. I walk in and he wasn't there, but two other people were there. This photo shop, it's really cool. I guess they like host just like educational classes about how to take film, how to use manual cameras,
Oh,
and
love
they
that.
also, do how to develop film
Oh, we should
manually.
go.
Mhm. And so they, like, kinda
Fun.
toured. No, we shouldn't go.
Oh.
But they, like, gave my friend and I, like, a little tour of their studio there, and it was really cool. And it's actually crazy because I didn't think about it, developing film. I basically did that in dental school with
Oh. Oh,
old-fashioned X-rays.
X-rays.
You do the same thing. You dip it in a solution, you put it in a dark room, there's
Right.
a drying process, there's a light
Is that
process.
how they still do X-rays or no?
No.
No.
I mean, I'm not one to say no offices do it that way because who knows, but there's probably a very old soul out there that maybe still does it that
That's crazy.
way.
Okay, okay, okay.
But anyway, so I thought that was interesting.
Mhm.
So we walk in and we're just kind of chit-chatting with it's a girl and a guy, probably in his 30s, early 40s. Um, and then let me it just smelt in their like dusty senior housing.
Mothballs.
Mothballs.
Mhm.
Um, greasy long blonde hair, aviator, clear glasses,
Oh, no.
Jeffrey Dahmer
I was
vibes.
just gonna say that, but I almost said Jeffrey Epstein, but
But
one and the same.
who am I to judge off of appearance, right? I'm gonna be nice to everybody
Okay,
and, give this guy a shot.
okay. My hands are
Very,
sweating.
very nice to me. Like very helpful and just like asking what I know about film cameras. Come to find out I don't really know much. So he just like really went into everything. And as he was talking to us, he like sat down on a couch that he had in there and we're like standing
Oh.
and he starts like developing film. And I've never developed film before. I didn't know that's what he was doing. And it kind of freaked me out because he had a dark room in like a bag on his
Mhm.
lap and was
Mhm.
just like,
What?
I'm like, is this guy about to whip out a gat and just like shoot us? Those were the vibes he was giving me. But then I, came to terms. I'm like, okay, no, I think he's just like doing something with film. Um, and he was just like very interested in like my background and with my friend right there, wasn't really asking him any questions. And I don't know. It was just really weird. Anyway, the guy showed up with the camera about the camera, very nice kid, younger than me, very knowledgeable about
Different guy.
film, different guy.
Okay.
The one that I was communicating with over Facebook.
Oh. Oh, to buy the camera from.
Yeah, and then when I was talking about like where should I get the film for this camera, it's a little bit different compared to like I think your camera.
Yeah.
And he just was like over the top nice to me and I didn't really think anything of it at the time to be honest, that how generous he was being, but he was like honestly just like take this role.
Oh.
That's totally fine and he was like here's my email. Yeah, let me know like once you get it going. He didn't say let me know if you need help. He was like let me know like how you like it. Okay, like, I'm not that's weird, like, I'm not gonna reach out to you, like, to let you know how I like it. He was and with, like, all the other vibes that he was giving me, it was just
The guy
strange.
you're buying it from or the
No, just the guy
Oh,
that was
the worker
the
guy.
worker guy
Oh, yeah,
who
that's weird.
owned that shop, I guess. And then so, as I was, like, doing business with the guy that I was buying the camera with, it was, like, away from the worker dude, and as I was leaving, "Oh, thank you, be blessed," and I was leaving, I turned the corner and the worker guy was right there and he had the biggest smile on his face as he was like washing something in the sink, like just to himself. It was just weird. And then I got in the car and my friend was just like, that was not okay. He was like, that guy was way too interested. That guy wanted to know way too much about you.
Ew,
That
weirdo.
was just not okay. And now looking back, ooh, like I feel like there was something in the room. Like it was gross, Bailey.
Ew.
Yeah. Does that seem gross? Or is it you had to be there?
Uh, I feel like I'm similar to you in the moment. It's just like I give people the benefit of the doubt,
Always. I do too.
and then you leave and you're like, "Eh." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's
how
why.
you're as you're explaining it is exactly how I would be
Mhm.
too, and you leave and it's like it's almost like this is probably not good, but I like need someone else's outside opinion to
I do
like be
too.
like, sis,
Yeah. Right.
no."
And I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm really thankful for the way that God wired me and the fact that, like, I'm always gonna see the good in people first.
Yeah.
But I think I do very good with people in my life that can bring me back and,
Uh-huh.
like, are more logical.
Yeah.
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 Anywho, speaking of Jeffrey Dahmer, you guys, this
Da, da,
episode
da.
Thank you. Do it again.
Da, da, da.
This episode is going to be a bit heavier, um, darker for She Means Well for sure. And I apologize to you, Bailey. I would say between the two of us, I can like talk about
Oh,
darker,
I'm sensitive.
heavier. I'm sensitive too. Don't make me out to be like a warthog or something.
No.
But like I like Bailey when we're watching a war movie, for example, like she's like this.
Jordan be like, "Baby, close your eyes." He knows how
I know.
sensitive I
And I'm
am.
just like,
It will literally give me
it's sweet.
nightmares. Like,
And that's crazy to me because that wouldn't happen. I think I'm really good at disassociating like this is
real.
Hollywood, this is film.
Your siblings, your family, you've always been more into like thriller, scary things than my family.
Right.
And you guys would always just, I can hear Hannah in my head. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. And I'm like, that part of my brain doesn't exist. Everything is real.
Oh,
Like it doesn't, if someone, we watched The Passion, I could not watch Jesus get his nail in his
okay.
hand.
I couldn't watch that either.
Even though you know that's not
That's
real.
a graphic movie though.
Oh,
That I couldn't watch that. That's like
oh my goodness.
but I mean,
can't.
you guys would say like,
I can't look at
the movie-
Roadkill. When I'm driving, I'm like,
oh yeah, see, that's a good
yeah,
example.
I can't look at
Or like the
Roadkill.
movie Taken. I remember talking about it, and Michaelin's like, "Oh, that horror film." I'm like, dude, come on, it's just a chase.
She had to leave the movie theater for what's the one, The Purge with the masks. She left the
Oh.
movie, or we left the movie early. 'Cause
Yeah.
she couldn't take it.
Yeah, that I mean, I definitely the older I've gotten, I'm like, I won't watch any horror films
No.
for sure. I won't. I don't even really watch thrilling movies anymore. I mean, if it's like crime involved, like I'll watch that type of stuff.
I like a mystery.
Yeah, mystery, thriller,
Yeah.
psychological thrillers. Yeah, I will
I
here
just,
and
like,
there, but
Do not like to pay to have my cortisol go up. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to feel my heart in my neck.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
like that.
I don't really watch movies anymore, to be honest. I
Yeah.
just fall asleep.
Yeah.
But Anywho, I'm going to apologize to
Okay.
you in advance because I'm going to be doing a little bit of a deeper dive into the psychological stuff that goes on in serial killers.
Okay. But you know what's interesting? Well, because you announced that last episode.
To be light.
To be late. And thank you for telling me because I could
Yeah.
prep. But
Uh-huh.
what's funny is I think like I was more than I am now, very into true crime podcasts. And I always tell people like I love to listen or like dialogue about it because my brain is literally so PG. Like I can't picture the things as gruesome as they really are. Like sometimes I have looked things up about certain people that I've been listening to a podcast about, and I'm like, wish I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't
think
have a problem listening
Yeah.
unless
I
it's
mean,
about children. Then I like
think it
turn
would be
down.
a red flag if you're like, oh yeah, I can really picture this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't either.
Like
That's good.
it doesn't freak me out. I think listening, but watching,
Mhm.
I can't.
I will say I'm the same way. I haven't listened to true crime in a really long time. I think my attraction to it now is more so after they are captured after they are sentenced, like what the court side of things look like, what
Uh-huh.
the federal how they go about it, how they, what the trial looks like. I more so will follow that versus like what the crime was.
Okay.
When I used to live on my own, it was in a season of me watching on YouTube, like a lot of true crime
Risky girl.
documentary stuff.
Alone.
I know. And I've talked too about how I was pretty anxious, like after my breakup. And that's when I like first lived on my own.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't realize that it was actually causing me so much more anxiety.
Yeah.
And even before living on my own, I was listening to true crime too. And I didn't get that anxious feeling because I was just constantly around people. And it did make me more aware of my surroundings. Like I feel like it made me,
yeah. Or vigilant.
Yes, and, like, smarter when I go to the grocery store, I'm not gonna go by myself if it's dark outside, or
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get gas, tomorrow morning before work when it's dark. I'm gonna get it now, like, while I'm with someone, even if I'm, not on empty
Yeah.
or
I
whatever.
feel like there's a part of true crime that I think is important to know to not
Mhm.
be so, like, optimistic about strangers. Like, it's
Yeah.
helped me, like, have a foot on the ground because
Mhm.
I feel like before both my feet were floating off the ground, and it helps to be like, "Okay, not everybody means well. Not everybody's
Mhm.
good."
Mhm.
Even though I wanna believe the best in people, it's just, like, there's evil in the world,
Oh
you
gosh,
know?
yeah. I have some statistics that are really gonna blow your mind.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go. Let's go.
Let's dive in, lady.
I'm gonna need to get another LaCroix in a minute. I'm so, like, thirsty today. I haven't drank a lot of water. I
I'm
feel like I'm, like,
I feel like I'm a
chugging
raisin
this.
daily as I'm drinking more caffeine right now. Like, water needs me at this point. So, before we get going into the episode, into the bread and butter, full disclaimer, if true crime, talking about murders, talking about serial kill
Murder. Sorry.
there's been a murder. Talking about that stuff triggers you in any way.
See you next week. Love you. Bye.
Yeah. See you next week. Okay, so I personally become fascinated with like the whys. Like, how in the heck,
Mhm.
how do people live that way?
Mhm.
What triggers somebody to murder?
What makes a murderer?
What makes a murderer, dude?
Mhm.
So in my research, I more so am pulling this information from his name is Dr. Scott Bond. He has a book,
Mr. Bond.
and the book is titled "Why Do We Love Serial Killers?"
Oh,
I don't love serial killers, but I do become fascinated with the whys.
right, right, right.
And it's like it's so it's so twisted. Like, why do I want to know about these people? Well, they're so different from me. So let's dive into it.
Right.
I think about like a car accident, like how you can't look away. It's kind of like that thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've told people, I'm like, I just, like, wanna understand because it's so far from the reality I know.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. So Dr. Scott Bond, he is a criminologist, very knowledgeable. He asks some pretty provocative questions in the book that I want to share with you. And I think they're questions that a lot of us who do listen to true crime want to know. Okay, so first I want to talk about the difference between being a sociopath and a psychopath. Something that's always confused me is like a psychopath and a sociopath, I kinda, I think, mash together and put them into one category, but they are actually a lot different. So, what Dr. Bond says, a clear distinction between the two. So, a psychopath, someone who is completely disconnected from other human beings. He made the analogy that helped me understand a little bit better, and maybe for you too. So, imagine an electrical cord that's plugged in. As soon as you pull the plug out of the wall, the appliance doesn't work.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how a psychopath works when it comes to having empathy, being able to connect with other people. It's just completely like unplugged, not there, non existent,
Always.
always. For a sociopath, it's a little bit different. Imagine that the cord is more so faulty, or I
Oh.
think maybe like an iPhone charger that you have to like wiggle a little bit.
Uh-huh.
It's like they have the capability of connecting with other people.
Uh-huh.
They still do lack that empathy, but there's a chance that they could find certain people in their life that they could connect, but they also know how to disconnect as well.
Okay, that's scary.
I know, but does that
Yeah.
make a little bit
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's easier to spot a sociopath than it is to spot a psychopath.
Mm.
Being that sociopaths, because they can be on or off,
Mhm.
they tend to be a bit more temperamental. They tend to be a bit
Mm.
more violent, more angry. Okay, so throughout this book, he talks a lot about Ted Bundy, a lot about BTK, for those of you that don't know, that also known as Dennis Rader. And then he also talks about the Night Stalker, which Richard Martinez, I think his name was. Do any of those, have you heard any stories about them?
All of them.
Okay, nice.
Mhm.
Perfect. I'm like, please, please,
Uh-huh.
please. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, BTK, he gave himself that name. He named himself for bind, torture, and kill.
Oh, I thought it was never mind.
What did you think it was?
Bind.
I
Same
think I
thing.
did too before reading this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, bind. Um, he gave himself that name in a letter to the police because he was seeking publicity. Oh, sorry, you guys. I feel so weird talking about this on our podcast because it's like such a light,
I
fun
know.
thing. But hey, we love to mix it up a little bit. And I know I'm not the only one that is interested in
Yeah.
this stuff either.
Yeah.
So for this guy, human beings are nothing but objects to him. Again, this is BTK I'm talking about. He literally referred to his victims as projects. It was like they were hobbies to him, something he was passionate about. He felt this undeniable impulse to kill, and when it would overwhelm him, he had no control over it, is what he would say. So Dennis Rader is the definition of a complete psychopath. Because he's a psychopath, he feels nothing when it comes to other human beings. So my first question throughout this episode too, I'm going to have I think I have 3 big questions, and I could pull evidence from this book, from this criminologist that will support those questions. So first question, he had a family, right?
Mhm.
Like BTK, he was a family man. So I'm wondering, do they have any emotions towards their family? Like, how are they able to chameleon so well and have 2 different lives?
Mhm.
Or is it just completely covered up um, to help them slither around more easily? Is that why they are able to connect with their family in
Or
this situation?
fake connect.
Yeah,
Like they
fake
know on
connect.
paper, to be a supportive dad, it would look like
Yes.
this. So I
Right.
will do that. But truly, he doesn't care.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this gave me a little bit more understanding. So a psychopath tends to be highly intelligent. I mean, there's been serial killers that have been categorized of being genius. Like their IQ level is just insane.
Wow.
There was a guy named Edward Kemper who was referred to as the co-ed killer, which I had never heard about. Have you?
In a TV show
Okay.
that because didn't they what is it not CIA, the FBI created a whole new branch and started studying his brain while he was arrested, I think, and
Oh,
doing
wow.
interviews with him. There's a show, only 2 seasons of it, but
Oh, okay.
anyway.
Yeah, this was new to me. But anyway, he was referred to as the co-ed killer, and he actually was a genius. Like his IQ level was in the genius, whatever bracket that is.
We ain't there.
So he was complete psychopath. So individuals like that, like Ed Kemper or Dennis Rader, they're able to mimic emotion. They're very intelligent, so they know what the right thing to say is, how to say it, how to react. They just don't feel any emotional attachment to the things that they're saying or to
Wow.
the way that they're reacting. Um,
And it's because they're genius that they know
yeah, they know
what to
exactly
do
what
and
to do.
say,
Yeah,
but it's not authentic.
exactly. Essentially, they're just like amazing actors.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're just going through the motions of life. So Dr. Scott wrote back and forth with BTK. He explained in his letters that he compartmentalized his life. BTK did. He said that he put his life into rooms. So he had like a daddy room where he played the role as being a husband, as being a father. He was actually the president of his Lutheran church. Like he was on board there. He's really well known in the community, of high stature, financially pretty successful. And he also had, I think, 3 kids. So then when he was in the daddy room, he, would take him to the park, to the zoo. He had great relationships with his kids growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That crash and burn.
Yeah. Exactly. He was actually um so this was all over a 30-year period where he was playing the role as a dad and at the same time playing the role as BTK. So he would literally go into these different rooms, if you will, and then
I will.
and then
I will. I mean, I will, but I'll come with you.
Psycho.
Y'all.
So he would literally go into these different rooms, and when he was in the BTK room, that desire to kill would consume him. I don't even like saying that, but that's exactly what it was, and that's exactly how he described it. Then he would then he would like reemerge from that BTK room mindset earlier, like I said, being unbothered, showing no remorse, no emotion, no attachment to what heinous crime that he just committed. And he would step right back into that role of being the star dad, being the president of the Lutheran church, being a good businessman.
I have goosebumps,
I know.
literally.
Really, really scary. I'm not gonna lie, a couple times throughout this, like I thought about the Enneagram
Yeah.
and like the Enneagram 3, its
The
biggest challenge, an unhealthy 3 is being a chameleon, being
Right.
able to play these different roles. And I'm just like, oh, better be careful, might become a psychopath.
I almost feel like they are able to see the world from an aerial view. And it's
Mhm.
like, I know exactly how to move these pawns and what people would want. And I know what you mean as a 3, like
Mhm.
how their brain works is almost like they're the charmer. Like
Right.
people are putty in my hand.
Mhm.
Like I know what they want to hear kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It just,
exactly.
he's amplified it. So
And like, not that you're comparing me to Dennis Rader, dear Lord, but even though like 3s that aren't psychopaths act that way unhealthily, there's still emotion and attachment to it.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
These people, that's just how they're wired.
Yeah.
That's just how, yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more of their wiring.
Wow.
Okay, this is a crazy statistic. 1% of the US population are psychos. So if you do the math, that's about 3 million psychos that are walking around here in the US.
Whoa.
That's really crazy, dude. So that means you and I probably have came across a psycho that are wired this way.
Think of a couple clients I've seen in my day. Just kidding.
I know, serious.
But I definitely have come across people where it's like their emotional attachment is like off.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
have too. Yeah.
And
It's
you're
like,
like,
it's just kind of like
"Hello?"
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Um, it's crazy. I thought it was a mental disorder.
Uh-huh.
It's not.
I thought so too.
Um,
But is it, you're going to probably get into this, but I'm wondering, like environmental, fight or
I'm gonna
flight,
get into
nature,
that
nurture.
for sure.
Okay.
That's a big question I've always had. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I know that you're who God has designed you to be. There's a story for your life.
Yeah.
Everybody has choices to make at the
Right.
end of the day.
Right.
But it's like, is there a chemical makeup that's different in their head when they're born? Is it something genetic?
They're
Is
set
it
out to be this. Was it nature, nurture? Was
Right.
it like terrible things happened in their childhood?
exactly
Changed the
I
chemistry
will
of their
get into
brain?
that. Yeah. Okay, so this was really interesting too. There's a study that lists that psychopaths are more concentrated in specific careers that hold like a high leadership. So like a CEO, lawyer, surgeon, and that one really
The narcissism maybe.
the narcissism for sure. Also I was thinking like being a surgeon, you would do really well as a surgeon in that job, in that career, in that environment if you were able to disconnect emotionally.
Oh, right, right.
Uh-huh.
And this is literally just a car in front of me I'm tuning up. There's no emotional,
Yeah.
but it's of someone's life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, who's a mom and a
Mhm.
grandma and whatever.
Yeah. This
Wow.
gentleman, Kevin Dutton, he's a criminologist in the UK. He studies psychopaths who are highly functioning and highly successful. He highlights that not all psychopaths are serial killers, and all serial killers are not psychopaths.
Mm.
In fact, many psychopaths are not criminals at all. What they are unfeeling human beings who are very goal oriented and who don't mind stepping on people along the way. So, if your goal is to be the CEO or leader of some sort, this lack of feeling or compassion could actually lead to a very successful career because you're not worried about hurting people's feelings. Whoever's in the way, like you'll get them out of the way and you're detached, so you don't care.
Statistically, is there more men who are than women?
Yes, there are.
Mhm.
And I read too that women, this is kind of random going off topic, but women are less likely to murder, but when they do, they typically will murder somebody that they know. So a family member,
It's
someone
driven from an emotional
it's driven from something
something.
emotional, and it's typically,
Oh.
like poisoning, drug overdose
Yeah.
type of thing, sometimes like strangling, but men typically is like violence with, guns and
Oh.
like yeah, stuff like that. Although there's, there what's Eileen Wood? I don't know. There's this one really famous, woman serial killer. She was like the highway prostitute killer that she would kill men
Mm.
with guns. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So these individuals, because oftentimes they're so intelligent, it would lead them to a very successful career. I thought this was really interesting. He mentioned surgeons or doctors and how they're able to function under enormous amount of stress very well because they're so detached from any emotion that comes from being under that amount of stress. Which when I read about that, I was honestly dumbfounded because if you think surgeons and what's the reason why they're doing what they're doing, it's like they want to do good. They want to help people, right?
You'd think.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people it's not. It's like money motivated and
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, that's true too, but I think me being someone that sees the glass half full,
right.
I'm like they wanna help
That's why they
people.
got into it.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
so smart and they want to dedicate their lives to studying and finding cures and helping.
Mhm.
Um, but often psychopaths who find themselves in a career like that, it makes sense to me now how they would be successful in that by detaching.
Mhm.
Throughout this book, I learned that serial killers are completely self-serving and narcissistic, like BTK was all psychopath and all narcissistic. He was always about himself.
Mm.
But getting back to the definition of psychopath, which we probably could use, psychopaths are completely disassociated from all other human beings, which doesn't technically mean that they're going to be criminals. There's just a lack of empathy with other human beings.
Mm.
My next question, are serial killers born a serial killer
Mhm.
or are they made?
Mhm.
Which, again, like, no. Like, I could easily just say, no, nobody's born a serial killer. God is not going to make anybody saying, you are designed to be a serial killer, right? Like, I
Right,
know
right,
the
right.
answer, but I want to know, like, the science and the criminology behind that question.
Mhm.
So, Dr. Scott Bond believes it's a combination of the two. Individuals like Bundy, BTK, Jeffrey Dahmer, who are really true blue psychopaths, there's a genetic predisposition for it. He said that neuroscientists have done studies to demonstrate the brains of psychopaths work differently than the normal brain. The brain patterns fire differently and they respond differently to stimulation and to stress.
Mm.
So I think about like an MRI, right? Like
Mhm.
the different colors that light up
Mhm.
that fires differently for them.
Mhm.
Here's what seems to happen. Warning. This is really the only part that's going to be a little bit gruesome, but I need
Shaking in my boots.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Something happens typically for these people around the age like 12, 13, puberty time
Okay.
where somehow violence and sex somehow gets twisted and intertwined.
Mhm.
They become sexually aroused by violence or I hate saying this, dead things. Um,
Uh, what's his face that you were talking about with the
Ted
glasses? No,
oh, Jeffrey Dahmer.
his dad. Yeah, roadkill.
Mhm. Yeah, and he was also a cannibal. Ted Bundy talks about this. Dennis Rader talked about this, and Ted Bundy, I think it was that he strangled cats growing up.
Oh, I remember hearing that. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
And then he also talked about like how he then that developed into like wanting to see what the inside of them looked like and how he remembers like that's what sexually aroused him. That's when he was like 12 or 13 doing that. Moving on. Yeah.
Which would make sense that it's just chemically off. Like it's just off.
It's like a gene that has been triggered.
Right.
That's yeah, I'll get more into it. So, this
Oh
doesn't happen
my.
overnight. This develops over time. Usually like around the puberty time up into their 20s, sometimes 30s. They'll fantasize for years and years about killing or being with dead things and it builds up to a point where they feel like they cannot wait any longer and they have to act on that. So I think it's a common misconception or a myth that serial killers had to have gone through some sort of abuse or a broken home that developed them into these monsters. When BTK was a perfect example of that's not always the case. He grew up in a working class family. You could almost say he had a excuse me. He had a cookie cutter American family home. But just like we all do, we all have a choice to act on our flesh or not. But unfortunately, some people have this psychotic gene that gets triggered at some point in their adolescence, and they fall into this morbid pit of hell and are consumed by the enemy. And that was a little bit of my opinion.
Uh-huh.
Like, which it lines with the facts that Dr. Scott Bond listed. It's like as soon as that flesh, that sin is like triggered.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm no psychopath, but I'm just saying there's been decisions that,
Mhm.
I'll contemplate. Should I do that? Should I
Mhm.
not? And you can give into it. It's like
Mhm.
that doesn't mean, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's a choice,
It's a choice.
and I think about times that, like, you do give in to things, and it's almost like you have this consciousness or Holy Spirit, like a moral compass in your life, in your heart, whatever, in your soul, and you know it's wrong, and you can actively turn it off. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And,
Yeah.
like, I'll think about that later. I wanna do what I wanna do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Been there.
Yeah.
Mhm. Psycho. Also, I feel like a drug addict or an
Mhm.
alcoholic, it's like, when they're like down bad, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good analogy, but it's like they need it. They need to get that drug or they need to have that drink to fulfill this desire that they have, this addiction that they have. Um,
But I would argue that one with, like, a chemical imbalance, like
mhm.
but I mean, people get sober.
But it's not a psychopath.
No,
It's
I'm
not.
saying with,
Oh,
drinking,
oh.
addiction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
you're
like
right.
something being an imbalance that's like,
Mhm.
these 2, oil and water, they don't go together,
Right.
like, I cannot.
I think I'm drawing those 2 together, like the drug addiction to a psychopath because it's like if uh, someone that's addicted to fentanyl, like they have
Mhm,
an urge and they're gonna do everything in their power to get it,
mhm.
similarly to like a psychopath.
Need it.
Yeah, need it and they will be the best chameleon. They can detach so easily. Like they're gonna compartmentalize and they're gonna go get that thing too.
Mhm,
But yet can still look like they're doing fine,
mhm.
you know? I don't know.
Like,
Maybe that was
manipulate
bad.
their family and
Mhm. Yes.
just to get what they want.
Mhm.
Like, "Get what I want."
So my next question after reading this little book was once that gene is triggered, is there no turning back? Is there no
Mm,
return? Is it something that then they feel like they can't switch off as a psychopath who has a psychopathic gene?
hmm,
So there's no known cure for the psychopathic gene. It seems to be a genetic disposition because it's not a mental illness that can be treated with medication or therapy or that sort of thing.
wow.
Yeah, what they do is, they'll manage these individuals once they're apprehended. A lot of these individuals become model prisoners, and the reason for that, from my understanding, is because of their compulsiveness. They look forward to certain things, they operate on a work-based or performance-based reward system.
Like, the structure is actually works really well for
Mhm.
them.
Right, and if you think about these well-known, like, serial killers, like Ted Bundy, very put together. Like, he always looked very nice, he was a handsome guy, like, his hair was nice, his skin was
Mhm,
nice, like, they work really well, in their career, performance-based, whatever, so that makes sense to me that they
mm,
would be model prisoners. It's
mhm.
crazy to think about, literally,
Which is
but
crazy because it's like if they thrive in structure, like they're thriving in prison because there's a right and a wrong, but it's like
Mhm.
in the world, the free world, there's too much freedom. There is a right and a wrong here
Mhm.
too,
Yeah.
but they just can't. And it's like they need to be in an environment that's like, no, if you choose wrong, you're going to be like disciplined
Right,
essentially.
right, and that's how their brains work, like, they're
Wow.
very logical.
Extreme like structure.
Right. They do things out of, like, logistics, not
Right.
emotion,
Right.
and, I'm thinking about, like, prisoners who like, gangs, they get in fights and stuff like that, they're acting on their emotion. They're not
Mm,
thinking, logically of, like, "If I do this, I'm gonna get put in the shoe," you
right.
know? So, yeah, they would be model prisoners. Psychopaths think very logical, so they're not going to act out based on how they're feeling. They're very meticulous and logical in how they do everything. And they operate in this way specifically in prison because, again, they perform on a performance based treat slash reward system. They think if I behave or if I can be a good example to other inmates, I'm going to get a treat. So it's almost like they operate kind of like childlike.
The carrot in front of
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly.
Ooh.
A tangible
A
example
treat.
of that childlike mindset is when Dennis Rader, BTK, when he was caught. So let me explain how he was caught. And this is wild. This is just so dumb. So he essentially was caught by his own egomania, if you will. He was playing cat and mouse with the authorities who were chasing him for a good amount of time. He would send them clues, things to identify his murders, like a catch me if you can type game. He actually reached the point where he felt that he had a personal relationship with the lead detective who had been chasing him throughout the years. But BTK reached out to the lead detective and said, "Hey, I want to send you some information on a disc. But before I actually send it to you, can you give me your word that you can't track me from this?" The detective's name was Ken. And of course, he was playing the game and he has a job. He's trying to catch
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh no, like no, we're not going to track you." Um, and BTK believed him. Like
BTK was getting bored or something.
he legit thought that he had these guys like wrapped around his finger. And like going back to the childlike mindset, like I think he truly thought like Ken, the detective, and him were buddies.
Which is odd because then it's like, does he then feel like he has an emotional connection with Ken? Because I guess being a sociopath, you would be able to sometimes have few and far between connections with
Right.
people. And
Like
for
the
whatever
faulty cord.
reason, yeah, he felt
Mhm.
safe.
Mhm.
And yeah, Ken has a job
Mhm.
and
I
that's
wonder
just
if it
crazy.
had anything to do with like so right, he was a dad and had that connection with his family, but being BTK, he was a monster and Ken was like the only person where he could give a little bit of empathy or a little bit of connection, emotional connection. So I wonder
Why?
if that's why, like, that was Ken was like the only person that knew BTK.
Mm, I don't, I'm not tracking with that. Wait, because they were connected like on the family level.
Yeah,
I just don't get why he would trust him.
I don't either. I don't get that either.
Hmm.
So
Well, he never
when
thought he was gonna get caught, that's why.
yeah, how?
His ego, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So when Ken, the detective, got the disc, they realized that there were some deleted files on it that could track back to the Lutheran church where Dennis Rader was the president of,
Oh,
and that's how they caught him.
wow.
It just seems so ridiculously careless for somebody that had been
So
doing this for so long. I think he was doing it for like 20 years,
yeah, so tedious
20
and
plus years. So tedious, covered up every single track. And it's so wild. Like he was in communication with the authorities throughout all of this. That's crazy nowadays,
no, I know.
right? I would like to think.
I was just listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about like, can this go on still? Because like with evidence and our phones, it's like you would like to think like a serial killer can't exist anymore where it's like
I
10,
know.
5 plus people, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. I think it is 4+ people.
is
Serial.
serial.
Hmm.
Dang.
So this next part is insane. But when they finally arrested him, one of the first things that BTK said to the lead detective, Ken, he said, "I thought we were friends. Why would you lie to me?" And Ken replied, "Because I was trying to catch you. You're a killer." Like,
Hello?
hello? Are you crazy? Yes. So in a strange way, Dennis Rader had these principles and thought that he was building a friendship with this detective and felt that trust had been broken by him tracking the CD. He felt super betrayed by the friendship and showed emotion, like when he got arrested that Ken had hurt him, which was wild.
Wow.
Um, mhm.
That's so crazy.
It's wild that he thought he had a genuine friendship with a man that was really trying to incarcerate him the whole time.
The one person who was like trying the hardest.
Mhm. And I think this too, like, highlights the narcissism. He
Mhm.
so badly, like, wanted Ken's attention, and was seeking that attention out, and then once he realized that, oh, like, he did have a job to do,
Yeah.
it just, like, really hurt his ego.
Yeah.
Mhm. A lot of serial killers claim to have this closeness to God, or a lot of them say that they're religious. I don't know if you've seen that throughout your time listening to true crime.
Mhm.
You know, some believe that they were avenging angels, some believe that they were close to God, and then some even believe, they're like Satanists. So my question is, what is their concept of God? Like, who is God to them? Because that's just so mind blowing that you feel that you're close to God, but yet you are murdering his people. So that's my next question. Dr. Scott Bond talks a little bit about this in the book. He talks about how some of you might know, I've heard of the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, who believed that he was actually Satan. Sorry, this is dark. Yeah, I know. He
Dear God.
and he would relish in that too and like own it too and like in the courtrooms like talk about it and so sad.
Possessed.
Possessed completely. Demonic.
Demonic, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
BTK, he like would talk about God a lot in his like letters to Dr. Skirt um in the letters that they would send back and forth. And he would say that BTK said he would compartmentalize his relationship with God just like he would as the father figure and as the monster he became.
I mean, he was very involved in his church.
And in his family and in his job, he had his own business. On one hand, he would say that he was a very religious man and that he was a Christian and he would have no conviction in talking about that or telling you that, which is insane.
Mm.
He saw nothing wrong with the heinous crimes he was committing. And his rationalization for this is that he was born a natural killer. People believe that genetic psychopath component was triggered as he would refer to as the X factor. BTK would call that genetic gene the X factor.
Hmm.
And he would say that his X factor, aka the genetic gene, was a part of who God made him to be. And so with his not realization, his justification was like, God made me this way. I don't have any control over it. This is just the story that God has written for me.
And I can't not
Yeah.
because
Like,
it's the compulsion takes over.
are you
So
dumb or are you dumb?
he thinks it's like honoring how God made him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. His realization or rationalization for this, unlike Richard Ramirez, BTK didn't seem to believe in the notion of evil, but rather than evil, he believes that his killings were manifested or a result of the X factor. Therefore, he's not responsible. Therefore, he has no reason to show remorse.
He's so like closed off to he doesn't have the emotional like
He's so
compass.
egotistical too. Like,
Yeah.
this is who God made me to be, and so I'm gonna live that out.
And I don't care whose life
Yeah.
I'm taking. It's like
Mhm.
I'm executing my job and it's
Mhm.
like you don't think about all these other people's calling
Mhm.
on their life.
Right. Um, if you think about it too, that's probably a really convenient rationalization for him because I mean, he completely took it out of context of it's like God's doing. This was God's like plan for my life. I'm a child of God. God made me this way, so therefore I am.
Ew, I hate him.
It's disgusting. Yeah, I do not like him either. And it's wild too because like a lot of well-known serial killers, they have like a type. BTK, literally anything. Men, women, I don't want to say it, but
Mm-hmm. That's
young people.
ah.
I know it's icky. It really is icky. This episode is icky. But I've always had those questions, so it was kind of nice to get a little bit more of an understanding from a
Mm-hmm.
professional.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done a deep dive like this. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, how do you feel?
Thrown up on.
I know, it's sick. I also do too think, like I'm not into true crime like I used to be.
Uh-huh.
It does feel icky to me. I feel like it does give me a little bit more anxiety now.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that true crime is out there. People obsess over it. I used to obsess over it, so hopefully some of you listening, you could appreciate this episode a little bit and have a little bit of a better understanding of what serial killers are and psychopaths.
The part where you're like, could there possibly be redemption for somebody is it's just crazy because God does have a purpose for everybody's life.
Mhm.
And I would be curious at what point, if there is a point for any of these prolific serial killers or anybody who's killed anybody, like you have a moment, hopefully, like
Mhm.
you will meet your maker, like,
Mhm.
and I wonder, like, before if they've been like, um, had the death penalty or whatever, like, or just like being in prison, like, do they have this, or psychopaths and sociopaths don't, like, do they have this moment where it's like, oh God,
Mhm. There
you
was
know?
there was a serial killer, I think it was Kemper, Ed Kemper. His I forgot what his, like, murderer name was. It was, like, son of
Sam.
Sam, yes. He was convicted and, gave his life to Jesus in prison before
Mm.
he died, and he then renamed himself to Son of Hope.
Oh, wow.
He apologized to the family, or some families, and one of the families actually forgave him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just gave me goosebumps too.
Yeah,
It
which is insane. I'm really curious as to what his conversation with Jesus will look like.
He's still living?
No, not anymore. I'm really curious. What do you think, Bill?
It's just so hard to wrap your head around. And I mean, yeah, we all will have a moment where we are face to face with our maker and we will be looking at our life, and the choices we've made and like,
It's a really big question.
yeah,
Um, it's like I know that there is no sin too big
yeah,
for that Jesus will not forgive you,
yeah.
right? But I think it's
I mean, look,
this might be
think
just
about,
naive, but like I'm thinking about someone that knows that they're sinning, let's say like BTK. He knows that he's sinning. Let's say he had that realization, which he didn't. But if he
mhm,
knows what he was doing was wrong and, God, I'm so sorry I'm doing this, but he continues living in that sin,
mhm,
I would like to think then that's when on judgment day the Lord's like, you had your chance.
mhm, mhm.
Do you
I
agree?
think it
I don't
comes down
know.
to, yeah,
Not that he doesn't forgive you and love you, but
well, think about when Jesus was crucified and there was two
oh
other
yeah.
people next to him, and there was one who was repentive and asked for forgiveness and really did have a change of heart.
Yes.
So I think it's about the change of the heart, and the other one
Yes.
laughed and got his eye plucked out.
What did the Lord say to him?
"You will
Well,
be forgiven," wasn't that?
yeah, but he said the guy that got his eye plucked out,
Oh,
it was something like goosebumpy.
yeah, where he clearly is not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Does not have a change of heart, does not care,
Yeah.
and I mean, God gives us a choice,
Yeah.
and by definition, a choice is there's gonna be one option or another, and, like,
Mhm.
some people are gonna choose not the right one,
Mhm. Yeah.
by
Yeah.
choice. It's their choice. That's
Exactly.
the hard thing about it is, like,
Mhm.
it's a choice.
It is a choice at the end of the day. It is a
That's
choice.
wild. Well, thank you so much for sacrificing and doing a deep dive on that icky topic because those are
Sorry.
all questions that I've had too, and just
Mhm.
like, how does this happen? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I am so intrigued of just like
The wise.
not even about like serial killers, just people in general and how our environment impacts us in the big picture, how
Mhm.
our choices impact us, and the nature versus nurture topic and the
Mhm.
timeline of someone's life and little
Mhm.
deposits of people along the way. It's like we are all so different. And
Right.
truly, like no one is the same as anybody. And
Mhm.
even like a household of siblings, like our experiences are so different and it
Yeah.
has made us all different people.
Mhm.
I just find it fascinating.
I do too. I think that was my favorite part of, like, the research I did was that it's a genetic gene that can be triggered, but that doesn't mean it's, like, too like, you you can work back. Like, it's not like once it's triggered, that's it. You still have a choice.
I wonder too for people who don't act on it in a murderous way that are
Mhm.
just like narcissistic. And
Mhm.
I wonder like having a diagnosis, because you said like therapy and treatment, like medicine doesn't change that. But I
Mm-mm.
wonder about like having awareness, like if there's a certain amount of work you can do where it's like, I don't get it. I'm not empathetic, but like I want to understand. Like I wonder if there's people out there who are diagnosed a psychopath or
Mhm.
sociopath and they can bring awareness to it. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, or they just
Versus
live in this narcissistic land. I don't know.
right.
Like there's got to be people out of the
Yeah.
1 billion or whatever you said,
3
3
million.
million.
Mhm.
There's got to be people out there who are
That
like,
was just in the US.
yeah,
Yeah.
scary. That's
So
so
scary.
wild.
I know. I mean, I feel like you and I both have had our days of being psychos.
Yeah.
Well, you guys,
Whoa.
hopefully you didn't listen to this on your commute to work in the morning. I hope, or honestly, I don't want you to listen to this at nighttime either. Scary. We probably won't go back to this, but you know, you got to mix it up. And that's what we did here. And honestly, after, because in our last episode at the end, I was like, if you like true crime, and it like held me to this, I couldn't like change it up because I did have a little bit of a change of heart of like, She Means Well is all about like positive and happy and um stuff that we're walking through, whatever. I'm like, this just seems really dark and
But I think
heavy.
we brought it back together and just at the end, just this conversation of like, is there redemption for people? Like,
Yeah.
this is what
Mhm.
She Means Well is about. Okay?
This is it, you guys. Not the murder.
Wow, that's so
been a
crazy.
murder.
But let us know if you guys like these deep dive episodes. Like, I mean, the Disney one versus this one, it's like we could go a million places, you know?
Yeah.
It's just fun to have different types of conversations. So let us know if you like the deep dive kind of thing, and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
We'll keep diving in.
I'm diving in.
I'm going deep, and over my head I wanna be caught in. Okay, anyway, love you guys. You can follow us at She Means Well Podcast
You
on
can.
all platforms.
You can do that.
You totally can.
Yeah.
We're back from the DED. Dead.
Stop it.
Oh.
Thought we're getting away from this.
We're back and we're active, and we'll be back next week with a lighter topic.
Honey,
I promise.
We're moving and a grooving.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, we're back. We love you guys, and until next week.
Also, don't forget, we always have listener submission topics. We need to like dust those off.
Let's blow the dust off the shelf, shall we?
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.